First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my in-laws to F off since they don't want to put in the effort? A year and 3 months ago, my husband and I took custody of his sister's 3 kids, Josh 8, Eliza 7, and Cole 6. Names are fake, but I wanted to make this easier to write out. My husband and I also have 2 kids together, Ella 7 and Micah 5. My in-laws were also spoken to about taking in their grandkids, but they did not feel like they could, and neither did the kids' paternal aunt, so my husband and I took them in. It has been rough. They were taken off their parents because the parents were not sending them to school. But outside of that, they were feeding them badly, not enforcing any bedtime or any kind of structure. My sister-in-law and her husband refused to comply with sending them to school, and after lengthy intervention from CPS, they were removed from the home. So when we got the kids, it had been many months since they had been to school. They had never eaten a vegetable and never had a bedtime that they could remember. And it has been hard. They still hate school, and I ended up needing to drive them to school because they would run from the bus stop. They still don't want to eat anything but food they were used to with their parents, and homework is not easy or fun. But I am determined to do what I can. So is my husband. They are in therapy twice a week, etc. My in-laws started complaining about their lack of progress during lockdown. They would ask how schoolwork was going from home and how their diet was, etc. And they would blame me when they were told very little had changed. They blamed me because I'm the one who stays at home. I'm the one who is active most in the normal 9-to-5 setting. My husband is active and involved and a great parent, but we need him to work. We started ignoring my in-laws after they refused to listen when my husband told them to stop blaming me. He told them we would be happy for them to help, but if not, they needed to be quiet. But they are not finished. And I had a bad day recently, and then my mother-in-law showed up at our house and announced to tell me I'm doing a bad job, and I lost it a little. I told her to F off and keep her opinion to herself when she wasn't willing to step up and put the effort in to help the kids. I told her I was putting the effort in and was doing all I could, and I was following the advice of the therapists, and she was being a judgmental jerk. She was not happy, and my husband got a long email about my behavior. I feel a little bad for snapping, and at the same time, I'm so frustrated. They never want to help out, and yet they treat me like crap and accuse me of not doing a good enough job. It's already hard juggling everything without that on top of it all. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Well, now you know something about how your sister-in-law became the kind of mother who gets her kids taken away by CPS. Your mother-in-law is attacking you because she probably feels guilty for raising this person who turned out this way, and because she didn't step up herself. Normally, I would say it's rude to tell your mother-in-law to F off, but under these circumstances, I wholly support your choice of verbiage. Not the a-hole. I definitely agree with you. OP is doing everything they can to help these children. I find it completely in the right to ignore and tell the mother-in-law to leave them alone. The sister-in-law lost her children for a reason, and mother-in-law shouldn't be judging OP for a problem that originally came from sister-in-law's own negligent actions. Not the a-hole. It sounds like you and your husband are doing the best you can with the situation, and I applaud the two of you for stepping up and taking this all on. We are. It's not easy trying to juggle everything, but we want the best for the kids. The fact my in-laws don't think I do stung at first. And now it just pisses me off because they have no idea how invested I am in these kids' well-beings and their future. Not the a-hole. Sounds like it's time to cut some limbs off the family tree. I'm just trying to imagine that email. I came to your house to tell your wife she's not doing things correctly, and when I kept telling her how trash she is, she got upset. The nerve. How dare she? I sure won't be providing surprise negative parenting classes anymore since you don't appreciate them. Like what? Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my sister her top choice baby name was a stupid ass name and that she should change it unless she wanted him to get bullied? My sister is pregnant, and as the due date is approaching, she's asking people for some feedback on the baby's name. She's mighty proud of the alternative and creative name she's chosen. Now, I am a pretty tolerant person. I don't have much of a temper, but when I see a parent making a stupid choice and making a kid's life hell in the future, you can bet your butt I'll do something about it. I waited till I was asked since, overall, it kind of wasn't my business, and to some extent, I didn't give a crap. I mean, how alternative can one's name be, right? No. She's naming the kid Crayon. Crayon. Like the freaking thing we used to draw with in 3rd grade. What? Okay, like sure, a little kid called Crayon might be cute. Still weird in my opinion. But imagine a 42-year-old man called Crayon. Imagine introducing your boyfriend Crayon to your parents. Imagine having freaking Crayon on your application form and tombstone. Imagine having freaking Crayon on your application form and tombstone. She asked me what I thought of my nephew's name, and I said I wasn't enthusiastic about it. She kept going on and on about how creative it was, and how she was so happy she thought it up. I was like, bruh. But she kept going on, and when she suggested she help me name a kid in the future, I couldn't hold back. I told her it was a stupid name, and that she was asking for him to get bullied in the future. I said she should look into other names since it wasn't on any paper yet. She got upset, told me she didn't need my negative energy, and she posted a long rant on Facebook about how hostile I was. My mom told me to apologize and support her, and my family is saying I'm a rude person and that the world is not as hateful as you. That's what my mom said. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Crayon is a terrible name. I've heard some awful ones as an early childhood teacher. Paddock is one that I still remember. Vector, like the Despicable Me villain. Tub. See Lena. Cherry Heaven. But Crayon is the sort of name that would make even the most professional and non-judgmental teacher go, "Oh, really? That's an interesting name." Once, we got a post about a mother naming her twin daughter Angel and a son Demon. Not Damien or Damon. Straight up Demon. But honestly, Crayon tops everything else. What possessed her to choose that name? Not the a-hole. That name is so bad that you'd actually be the a-hole if you didn't do everything in your powers to stop it from happening. It sounds like there was no stopping the sister from naming her kid Crayon. Hope he could try to explain all the jokes that this kid will probably go through growing up. But if the sister does go through the name Crayon, I guarantee the child probably changed their name when they turn 18. I can imagine kids joking, "Where's the blue crayon?" looking over at the nephew wearing blue shirt. Kids are cruel. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for making my mom cry when she called my child retarded? I, 38 male, have a daughter, 11, who was recently diagnosed with autism. We thought it would be wise to tell this to my aunt, in-laws, and my parents, just so they can be expectant of any complications. My daughter frequently goes to her aunt's to see her cousin on a Thursday, since they lived only about 15 minutes from where we did. Sometimes we'll leave my daughter with my in-laws, or sometimes we'll leave them with my parents. This is just in case you wanted to know. I have to start by saying that my mom is the type of person who hates being told that she's wrong. My dad would often lose arguments with her when I was younger because she'd cry or throw a toddler-level tantrum, and it was honestly just tiring for him. As I became an adult, she became more dependent on me and would repeat the waterworks treatment she did with my dad if I refused to do something for her or tell her she was wrong in something. Essentially, to my mom, my telling her she is wrong is equivalent to murdering somebody in public. Anyway, main story. We informed my aunt and in-laws about my daughter's autism. They were pretty understanding of it. The real problem started with my mom. When we got around to informing my parents, my dad was okay, but my mom got upset, asking me why I didn't find this out earlier. I honestly don't know how to respond to that, as I wasn't even sure if that was a rational question. But then she continued saying that a child that is crazy will be tough to raise, and I should probably give her up for adoption. I told her I wasn't going to do that, and she blew a fuse. She told me that I was being ridiculous, and that I would end up being a bad parent, and that she did not want a retarded grandchild. I saw red. Admittedly, it was hard for me not to lose it when she made that adoption and crazy comment, but I lost it. I told her that she was a freaking cruel piece of fish, and she always has been, and that she can't comment on my parenting style when her parenting was less than terrible. She burst into tears, asking me how I could be so horrible to her after everything she has done for me. I point-blank told her, "You've never done jack." My daughter was in her room watching cartoons on her tablet so she couldn't hear me, and I hung up. Now, I'm wondering if I went too far. because my dad called me to tell me that I should apologize to my mom in order to keep the peace. A lot of my family members on my mom's side are telling me to just be the bigger person and that my grandfather had Asperger's and mistreated her as a child, so that's why she may have said that. My wife agrees there's no excuse to what she said and that I shouldn't apologize, but I don't know. So lay it out thick, Reddit. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. If you ever allow her around your child again, you will not only be an a-hole, you'll be a failure as a parent. I agree. OP, don't leave your daughter with them ever again. Go no contact if necessary, and don't apologize. Not the a-hole. There is no excuse for what she said. I don't care who mistreated her as a child. She's a full-grown adult now who's responsible for herself. If I was in your position, she would never see my daughter again. And I don't say things like this lightly, but she literally told you to give your daughter up for adoption just because of her health issues. That's unforgivable. Exactly. Not the a-hole. I'm autistic, albeit high-functioning. I want anybody says something negative about an autistic person, or that it's their fault or whatever, really just freaking pisses me off. Even after 30 years of understanding and spreading the knowledge, people still don't understand what it really is or what it means to have it and live with it. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not punishing my daughter for mocking her cousin? My wife and her younger sister are best friends. As a result, when our middle daughter and her cousin were born around the same time, my wife really expected them to also be best friends. With 16 years of hindsight, I can say with certainty that the expectation was misplaced. Nothing happened in particular. My daughter just doesn't like her cousin. My wife keeps pushing the relationship. This includes making my daughter spend time with her cousin during family gatherings, inviting her cousin on trips, forcing my daughter to call her. We're pretty sure I'm the favorite parent, a fact that keeps my ego well inflated, and therefore, my apathy towards the situation is not well received by my wife. From my perspective, this isn't important, and I do not possess the ability to make two teenagers become friends. I'm also pretty sure that trying to push this kind of knuckle-headed stuff makes kids not want to speak to you. This is where I'm probably an a-hole. Yesterday, my wife forced my daughter to video call her cousin. My daughter rejected the request, and my wife told her, unless you have a valid reason for disliking your cousin, you will do this because we're family. The call occurred. This morning, we awoke to a PowerPoint presentation titled Valid Reasons to Dislike Cousin. Using clips from the Zoom call, segments included Why is Cousin's Voice So Grating? A music theory approach, a case study, conversations that provide no value, rethinking the idea that there are no dumb questions, etc. With the benefit of a couple of hours of hindsight, it was a very cruel takedown of her cousin's entire personality. My wife was furious. My eldest daughter and I lost our crap laughing. My wife is demanding I support her in punishing my daughter for bullying her cousin. I have refused because I feel this whole situation wouldn't have occurred if she didn't push the relationship. But I'm starting to have second thoughts because it was very mean. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your wife is the a-hole for forcing a 16-year-old to spend time with someone she doesn't like. The 16-year-old's response to your wife, she didn't tell the cousin this, I presume, is as hilarious as it is the fault of the adults forcing the relationship. I'm also not convinced that the cousin is down with this either, considering that the daughter is so clearly unhappy with spending time with her. Seriously, my 16-year-old self would have thrown a hizzy and stomped around. OP's kid is clever as all get out. She put together her thoughts in a concise and organized way. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Unless your daughter sends this presentation to her cousin or shared it with anybody else, it isn't bullying. What is she to be punished for? Doing what your wife asked and gave reasons for why she dislikes her cousin? Having no chemistry / a dislike for another person and not wanting to spend her time with that person? For having an opinion that differs from her mother's? Talk to your daughter and make sure her presentation is deleted, as it would be terrible should others get their hands on it. Your daughter is almost an adult, and your wife is pushing her away with her demands. By the way, your daughter sounds wonderful. Your wife, not so much. I'd also just like to say, I feel incredibly bad about laughing. She just started with a music theory lecture about some special discordant chord. Then, she had a video of the core that immediately went into a Zoom clip of her cousin producing the same notes. I just couldn't hold it in. Tell her I'm impressed and like her more. There is only one thing you need to now do. Delete that PowerPoint and never tell. Think of it as a family secret. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, am I the a-hole for refusing to come clean and ruining my ex-husband's relationship? I, 42 female, divorced my ex-husband Chad, 42 male, for cheating with his current wife Rebecca, 30 female, a few years back. I'll spare the details, but basically something Chad did set off alarm bells. So I did some snooping and discovered a paper trail that led me to Rebecca. I was furious and hurt, but instead of confronting him about it then, I waited and collected evidence. I found Rebecca on social media and joined one of the online clubs she was in. We had the same interests, so it wouldn't be that big of a red flag if either Chad or Rebecca found out, and I just played it cool. I waited until after our youngest was in school so I could get a part-time job and got Chad to pay for my certification so I could get a better job. During this time, he would go on trips, book hotels, buy gifts, etc. with a secret account that I was able to access, because I know Chad well enough to guess his passwords and that he only sets his alerts when someone tries to use it. After I had moved certain things out of the house without his knowledge and convinced him to take his name off of my car, I handed him the divorce papers of the hotel lobby he was in waiting for Rebecca. I had tons of pictures of them together, but only showed 3 of them when he tried to deny, and 2 more to his family when he tried to send them after me. Chad was up for a big promotion, so I told him that we could either get this divorce over with, or I could kick up a fuss, which would make his employers reconsider his position. After I made it clear that I didn't want any alimony and that he could keep his retirement, we went our separate ways. Shortly after that, Rebecca got pregnant and they got married, and she aggravates to no end. But since my kids never complained, I was willing to just suck it up. Then recently, Rebecca decided to get a little arrogant and publicly criticized my parenting, because my child didn't do so well at the end of the school year and how she'd raise her child to be smart. In the heat of the moment, along with some built-up anger, I lied and said it wasn't very smart of her to tip off the wife that she was the affair partner. Chad wasn't there, but his mom and sister were, and he called me that night to ask about it. He always wondered how I found out, and instead of telling the truth, I said that Rebecca was the one who tipped me off with the photos and told me when/where they'd be. And for some strange reason, Chad asked me to keep our kids for the whole summer, which I was willing to do in exchange for getting them on Christmas. I heard a few weeks later that Chad and Rebecca didn't have a very good summer. Rebecca has been messaging constantly about this, but if it doesn't have anything to do with my kids, I'm silent mode. I was talking to my brother about this, and he thinks that while it's understandable why I lied, that it was still wrong. But since I don't care about Rebecca or Chad, I have to ask, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Should have taken his retirement and alimony. We were a strong middle class, and I wasn't out of work for that very long. The alimony wouldn't be much, and it puts as little as possible in his retirement, at least while we were married, and has never been much of a long-term saver. Plus, after pretending not to know for over a year, I was ready for it all to be over. Fighting for alimony would have just drawn it all out. Rebecca is fine with people lying. She cheerfully spread her legs for a man who was lying to another woman about their family life. So obviously she gets off on dishonesty. Since Rebecca loves it when people lie, she has nothing to complain about now. In fact, you're to be applauded for giving her life a much-needed missing zing around lies in a relationship. Not a-hole. I'm reminded of the post where the ex called the guy to her home during the time when the affair partner turned wife was in labor, and then sent the CCTV cam footage of him entering her place to his wife, asking whether he changed his clothes before holding his kid. Needless to say, everything exploded. Not the a-hole. They cheated. So of course they don't trust each other. She not only got with a married man, but is also criticizing you. Not fair. Yeah, when 2 cheaters get together, it never ends well. They both know what they were capable of, and there's never truly trust. A cheater leaving their partner doesn't mean the affair partner won. It just means there is a new job opening for a fair partner. Next story. Am I the a-hole for being very upset that my wife is helping her friend cheat on her husband? A while ago, my wife and her friend went on a weekend trip which seemed fine. Turns out, the friend didn't really want to go on the trip. She was meeting a guy, her best friend, her soulmate. Apparently, these two have been messaging each other for years. My wife didn't know this, but obviously found out about it and told me. But she just ignored it because it wasn't our business. We didn't tell the husband. It was a weird WTF kind of thing. I do not know the husband at all. I barely know his friend. I was thinking, not my circus, not my monkeys. So here's the thing. The friend asked my wife to go on another trip and that she will pay probably around $3,000 for the sole purpose of cheating on her husband again. My wife was gleefully ecstatic about going on a free trip. She will be the alibi for her friend cheating. Am I the a-hole for being outraged, feeling betrayed, feeling that our marriage is a freaking joke, and frankly wanting to end it? If her and the girls make such a farce of marriage and help each other out and cover for each other cheating, what the heck is our marriage? I am seriously considering telling my wife that she can make her own decisions, but they have consequences. And when she returns for the Bangfest cheating weekend, the locks will be changed, and the divorce papers will be pinned to the front door. Yep, 100%. Also, tell the husband. Now. Cheaters suck and people who abet them are just as bad. Yeah, if your wife can help her friend cheat, seems fair you can tell the hubby. I wouldn't be surprised if his wife is already cheating on him, not the a-hole. So when the wife says going for a girls' trip with a cheater, she goes alone. Maybe her girls' trip is a tryst as well. This was the first thing I thought. OP's wife's alibi is that she's helping a friend cheat. She wouldn't have been so honest if she were up to something. I let her go. While they're gone, change the lock, post the divorce papers on the door, have her stuff moved to a storage unit and leave key and address with divorce papers. And tell the friend's husband. Lol, OP can call wife on speaker with friend's husband present and ask, so how's the cheating going? My guess is it's a double date this time. What makes you think it was the last time? Dude, try this. Satiate my curiosity. Pretend to be cool with it for a single conversation. Tell her you're clearing your schedule to join her on this trip. Pretend to be excited about going in her free vacation. Shouldn't be an issue since the friend will be with her affair partner, right? If she gets weird about it, then you have bigger questions to ask. I think she might be throwing you a red herring. I think she's the cheater and has always been. Do you have any evidence from the friend that says otherwise? I think she set the stage to ease your suspicions for later trips. Logically, who pays $3,000 for a cover story? Or is your wife creating a believable scenario that explains why her trips is paid for? It's being paid for by the dude she's banging, brother. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling the husband of a woman I hooked up with? Yes, I am the affair partner, but before you all bite my head off, hear me out. I, 28 male, hooked up with a woman, 30 female that I met at a bar one night. After a very long and stressful week at work, a coworker and I wanted to go work out some stress by having a few beers at a bar near work. It was late when we finally got out of work, and it was a Friday, so there was a bit of a crowd, but it wasn't packed. All I wanted to do was have a couple beers and go home. But almost as soon as we sat down at the bar, my coworker started talking to a group of women that were next to us. I didn't really participate, but I chimed in every now and then. Eventually, one of the women of the group came and sat next to me. We started talking, ignoring the rest of them. You might be asking, how could you not tell she was married? Didn't she wear a ring? No, she wasn't. It might sound weird, but I make sure to look so I can decide if I want something more with a woman or not. If I see a ring, I don't even try. You might also ask, did she hint at any sort of a relationship she might be in? No, we had basic conversations, like what we did for work or things we do in our free time. Finally, you might ask, did her friends try to separate us or hint at you to stop? Again, no. They all seemed to be happy for her smiling at us. Eventually, we went back to my house and hooked up that night. Now, you might say, oh, she was drunk, and she must have felt guilty or ashamed in the morning after. Nope. And I know that, because she asked for my number and left with a smile, and told me she would text me later. At this point, I just thought I had a fun night with a great woman. Later that day, we started texting pretty casually. For the next 2 weeks, we just texted back and forth. We made a date to go back to the bar and see each other again. We sat down at the bar for 2 drinks, and then she asked if I wanted to go back to her place. I of course said yes, and away we went. At her house, there were a few things that made me suspicious. but I put it in the back of my mind. There were small things like a man's coat and a pair of shoes at the door. What made me put it in the back of my mind was near the door was a bunch of pictures of her family, and there was none of her and a guy, so I thought it was maybe an ex or a male family member things. Things started to spark between us and we took it to the bedroom. She went into her bathroom and got ready, but I see her closet door was open and inside was a ton of men's clothes. So much so that it was obvious that a man lives here. I shouted in panic that I had called from work and I had to go. I apologized and got out of there. Every possible thought ran through my head, but it all came back to she must have been using me to cheat. At first, I didn't know what to do. I realized I hardly knew her. I didn't have any of her socials, and besides some texts throughout the day, we didn't call or FaceTime. All I knew was her name and where she worked, and that I needed to tell the guy what happened. I looked all over social media, but there was nothing. I went to her work's website and found out she gave me a false last name, and then found her and her husband on social media. At this point, I almost relented, thinking if I told him I might ruin a family. But I quickly came to my senses and messaged him. The message was, "Hi, you don't know me, but 2 weeks ago I slept with your wife. At the time, I did not know she was a married woman. Last night we made a date to go to the bar and ended up at your house. I noticed some of your things around the house and left as soon as it clicked in my brain that she was married. If you need me, reach me at my number." He hasn't messaged me back, but she and her friends have blown up my phone for the past 2 days, saying I'm wrecking a marriage. Morally, I think I'm in the right, but am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Lol, that's hilarious that they say you're wrecking her marriage. That's like getting a speeding ticket for going 100 miles per hour and blaming the cop for messing up your driving report. Not the a-hole, and good on you, brother. That's because your friends have likely cheated as well, but they keep that in their inner circle. They don't ever think some rando dude at the bar would ever out them. Her taking him back to her house and then claiming still he's wrecking a marriage is next level for the street psycho. I wish I could be there when she tries to convince the husband it's his fault. Not the a-hole. You are not wrecking the marriage. The possibly ex-wife is. Exactly. It's amazing how people justify and spin the truth to suit them. Not the a-hole. You did the right thing. If he trusted her, you saved him from wasting his time. I'm sure anyone would like a heads up that their significant other is being unfaithful. She's the a-hole. Her friends are the a-holes. Although there may be two sides to every story. She still put you in harm's way. People get killed over stuff like this. At least you know he'll never catch you and shoot your head off your shoulders. I'd buy you a beer if I was him. Reminds me of that woman who was cheating on her husband, got caught, told her husband he was violating her and the husband offed the guy. And because she lied, he didn't get convicted of a crime, but I think / hope she did. You mean the husband walked in on them? Or he went out, found a guy, and offed him? The story I remember is he showed up at home unexpectedly, and his wife was nagging the dude in front of the house in front of the affair guy's truck. The husband walked up and saw, and in a panic, she yelled she was being violated and jumped off the guy, who was then promptly fatally shot by husband who thought he was defending his wife. Last story. My sister told me that she and my fiancé were having an affair before his death. So about a month ago, my 25 female fiancé, 27 male, had unfortunately gotten killed in a car crash. It was devastating for everyone, especially since me and him were going to have our wedding in September of this year and was planning on buying a new house together next year. It was like everything I had dreamed of had come true before it all came crashing down. Of course, I haven't been taking it well and just been staying in bed, not wanting to talk to anyone, on some occasions drinking myself to sleep. But today, my friends had managed to give me the courage to finally go outside after nearly 4 weeks of just staying indoors. I'll admit, I wasn't looking forward to it, but I did have a good time with them, and even got a smile on my face for the first time ever since my fiancé's death. But when I came back home and walked into the living room, that's when I saw my sister, 22 female, in my wedding dress. Music playing in the background while she was looking at herself in the mirror with obvious tears down her face. When she noticed me, immediately she screamed at me to get out. But I stood my ground and refused until she explained herself. That's when she broke down and told me that before my fiancé's death, her and him had been having an affair and that they were planning on running away together before the wedding. When she told me all of that, I started to have a panic attack and ran to lock myself in my room. She did try and get me out so she could explain herself more, but what on earth is there more to explain? I feel sick even writing this, to be honest. I don't want to look at her. I don't want anything to do with her, and all I've been doing is crying all day. This year has honestly been the worst in my entire life, and I seriously don't know what to do. Hold on, don't just believe her immediately. Try to get some proof first, otherwise she is just slandering him. That part. Go through his phone. This affair could have been one-sided. I wouldn't just take her word for it. This. I had a friend who was dating someone for 2 to 3 months without that person knowing. Oh word. My manager fired a guy because he was going around telling everyone he had been sleeping with me for years and that my then girlfriend at the time had stolen me from him. Spoiler alert, he was a lunatic. Not the a-hole. I am so sorry that happened to you. There could also be another side of this story that maybe she was in love with your fiancé and those feelings were not reciprocated. He's no longer here to defend himself. Before I would fully believe her that he betrayed you, I would look through his phone for proof. I don't know that I would believe anything she says without actual proof. If it's not on his devices, surely would be on hers. Definitely tell your parents ASAP and go no contact with her regardless. Just to play devil's advocate, it's still possible that maybe she had a thing for him and those feelings were a one-way thing. I don't have his phone with him, unfortunately, but I'm not sure how I'd be able to gain access to her phone as it has a password. The no contact part would be very hard to do, to be honest, since we've been close to each other since the beginning, and I still love her. But at the same time, I still just want to hurt her for what she had told me. You really should try and find proof before you fully believe her. Ask her for it directly. If she doesn't want to show it to you, then that's enough of an indication that what she's saying is likely not true. Think about the situation. She's standing in your wedding dress looking at herself in the mirror and then tells you how they wanted to run away and get married. It doesn't sound realistic. Why would they be running away? Coincidental as well that they would be getting married, etc. Just don't trust what she's saying just because they were close. He might have just been kind to her as she's your sister, and she probably hoped for more. Am I the a-hole for kicking my ex-boyfriend out after he euthanized my dog? To get started, I mid-20s have been with my ex-boyfriend late 20s for about 1.5 years, and he moved in with me a few months ago. Anyways, I have had a senior chihuahua Cinnamon or Cinnamon for the last 15 years of my life. She was my whole world because she was part of key moments growing up in my life. I have a very difficult job to get time off, and about a week ago I noticed Cinnamon had a lump on her middle stomach area and got a vet appointment as soon as possible. I wasn't able to get time off to take her, so I asked boyfriend to take her and he agreed. I gave him my card to get whatever test they needed to do. I told him to call me when he found out anything. I took a late lunch to give him a call. I called him and no answer. Okay, maybe he's still at the vet doing tests. I got home at around 6 p.m. and he was in the living room kind of just sitting there with the TV on. He asked what the vet said and where Cinnamon was. He didn't really look at me. He told me the vet said it was cancer and it wasn't going to get better, but he had them put Cinnamon down to prevent suffering. I froze. I didn't understand what he was saying to me, and I only managed to get out, "You what?" And he repeated what he said. I started screaming/sobbing at him. He got defensive, saying that what he did was for the best. I screamed at him to get out now, and after some more choice words, he sped off in his car. I don't want to get into what happened after I left, and it's still so hard to type out now. In the morning, I had a bunch of texts and calls from him. I didn't respond. I emptied out some plastic storage tubs and started packing all of his items. After I was finished, I put the tubs on the side of the house by the garage and texted him to collect his stuff. He arrived about an hour later and was banging on the door saying I was being dramatic and it was just a dog. I think he's going to be staying with his parents, but I'm not sure. I managed to get hold of the vet, and by some miracle, they hadn't gotten rid of the toxic waste yet, and I was able to get Cinnamon cremated. I go to pick her up in a couple days. I can't stop thinking about if what I did was right. I can't forgive X for what he did, but maybe I went a little crazy kicking him out right there and then. So, am I the a-hole for kicking him out and putting his stuff outside? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. It was just a dog. I would love to see your Rex explain that to John Wick. I felt like I could go John Wick on him. Me and my closest friends and family are having a little goodbye party for Cinnamon when I get her back. I am so very sorry for you. The worst health decisions I've ever had to make regarding my dogs have revolved around cancer. I just can't believe that he made that decision without even bothering to talk to you. I'd say that you dodged a bullet with regards to your boyfriend. He told you a whole lot about himself. Good for you for kicking him out ASAP. Godspeed, Simpson. You're a beloved friend and you will be missed. Not stay home. This is freaking garbage. He absolutely should have contacted you before he made a decision. There would have been no reason to rush and do it when you couldn't be there. Even if your pet was in pain, a veterinarian could have prescribed meds to keep Cinnamon comfortable until he could say goodbye. This man has no heart. Let him leave. Just a dog is bullcrap. Sounds like he was jealous of the dog. The cancer diagnosis was shocking to me. Yes, Simpson was getting up there in age, but she was still eating, /drinking, /going potty, /being normal since I found a lump. The vet confirmed with me when I called that it was a fast-acting cancer, but she could have gotten pain medicine for at least a couple weeks until she started getting uncomfortable. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for blowing up at my husband for sending his family a picture of our newborn? Me, female 27, and Phil, male 32, have been married for 3 years. We both have families who want to be first and everything. Phil read me an article about boundaries and encouraged me to set boundaries for both families. I agreed, and we made progress. As the birth of our son approached, we handled the family's requests. Both moms wanted to be in the room. We said no. Both dads wanted the first photo with the baby, but we said no till they agree. Both families wanted to be at a hospital to see our son, but we said no, then agreed to host a gathering on Tuesday, where both families get to see our son at the same time for the first time. No pictures, posts, or video calls till then, since I needed to recover. Everything was going well. It started when Phil secretly took a picture of our son and sent it to his family. It blew up. Everyone tagged everyone on Facebook. Mom and family saw not only the picture, but posts my in-laws made saying we won in the end, or our grandson chose us, and 1-0. Then mother-in-law lied about taking the picture herself at the hospital. Mom called crying, saying Phil leaked and shared picture of our son and violated the agreement both families had. Dad said that on top of the defeat, they had to deal with the propaganda and emotional stress from in-laws. I was fuming. I asked Phil if he sent his family a picture of our son hours ago. He said, jokingly, yesn't. I blew up at him saying we had an agreement. And me and family respected it, but he and family on the other hand were humiliating my family, ruining their joy, and rubbing the fact that they got to be the first to see our son in their face. He said, so what? A family should quit being overdramatic when things don't go their way. I said his family are the ones with the overdramatic, passive-aggressive attitude. I showed him every post and tag they made, and asked if he'd be happy if my family did this. He scrolled for a couple minutes nodding and looking impressed. He said all he did was innocently send Mom a picture since she wouldn't stop calling, hassling and begging him for one picture. I said he still violated our agreement to not share photos till Tuesday, and this way his family will never respect the boundaries we try to set. I asked if those boundaries were just for my family to keep them at arm's length while obviously favoring his. He said, that's my son. I have the authority to send a picture of him to whomever I please, okay? Your family? The entire lot of them can either shut the hell up and get over it, or wait for your sister to miraculously give them a baby. We argued some more, and I refused to drop it. He said I overreacted, blew his joy, and made a big deal out of it just because my family has nothing better to do than cry woe is me, and wrapped up by saying it clearly wasn't matched. Too deep in the fog and needed to cut the damn cord already. I'm thinking it might have been harsh. Am I the a-hole? Context. Phil doesn't have the best relationship with my family. He thinks they are controlling, and tries to exclude them from events while letting his family get involved in everything. He's not always home due to work at the local police department, but he still controls what events my family should/shouldn't attend. Also, my sister is infertile. The way Phil said miraculously hurt me on her behalf. Not the a-hole. For the record, I think both families, including you and your husband, making a competition out of baby milestones is really dumb. This is a child here, not a badminton tournament. Posts my in-laws made saying we won in the end, or our grandson chose us, and 1-0. This is so messed up, and shows they have no concept of your son as a human being. I didn't read at the post that Opie and husband made it into a competition. I felt like their parents did that on their own. But otherwise, I agree with your comment. The grandparents are vile and unhinged. The husband is dismissive of Opie, who is, reasonably, upset that a boundary was violated. And the entitlement of the husband to break this boundary because of a sense of ownership over the son/photos is gross. Poor Opie. But what on earth is wrong with all the people in her life? Honestly, I'd be beyond pissed. Glad you're so happy they got to see the picture first. I need some time away from you. Me and the baby are going to stay with my parents for a while. If he thinks Opie should be happy about his parents gloating about being chosen, then I'm sure he will just be thrilled that Opie's parents get to spend so much time with the baby. Maybe I'm doing petty revenge here, but if my hubby acted like that, first chance I'd get, I'd pack up some stuff and take my kid to my family for a few days and post pictures of them on Facebook. Let my kid meet my family, as I would not let my partner get away with talking to me like that. Edit to add, I thought I'd do an edit. I am not encouraging Opie to take and disappear with her baby forever. Can't believe I need to clarify this. But Opie needs to sit down and think, is this as toxic as it sounds to a lot of us? I would also like to say, I'd only encourage anyone to take their child on a permanent basis if the child was in danger. Then I'd say go to a women's hostel, etc. Have you spoke to your husband about his controlling ways? Is your family controlling as your husband seems to think they are? Have they exhibited any worrying behavior? Also, ignore any trolls. I actually thought about doing that, especially after how he talked about my family. He even stopped me from sending them a picture later. Next story. Am I the a-hole for backing out of cooking for my dear husband's guest after he told me, do your job? My husband and I both work, equal hours. I'm a hairstylist working at a salon, and he's a warehouse manager. My mother-in-law is very old-fashioned and lives in the 1950s still. She said women can't stop taking care of their households as a priority, no matter what they achieve. I hated this, and it caused endless problems between us. My husband learned to do everything from folding his clothes to fixing the toilet, except cooking. His mom taught him that his future wife should do everything, so he didn't have to learn. He defended me against her and cut contact with her. She hasn't participated in a gathering since 2015 due to family not wanting her around. My husband cleans while I cook, but he tends to complain from time to time and throw some weird beliefs/opinions at me that are similar to what his mom thinks. I get it since he's been raised by her, and this mentality takes time to go away. Last week he had guests over and asked me to help him host dinner. We agreed that I cook and he clean like always. Guests arrived and my husband sat with them while I was in the kitchen cooking. I had issues with the oven. I was running late and dinner wasn't ready yet. My husband rushed into the kitchen asking why dinner wasn't ready yet. I said I'd be done soon. He grabbed a few glasses while pressuring me to hurry up. I made a comment about how I didn't even get to meet his guests and how unfair it was, but he just casually said, just do your job, and rushed out. I was shocked. I stopped him and asked, what did you just say to me? He looked at me quizzically. I turned the oven off and stopped cooking. He was freaking out, saying, no, wait, what are you doing? While I take my apron off. I said I don't work for him to tell me to do my job, and he should take over cooking if he thought I was slow. He begged me not to do this to him, and explained he didn't mean to tell me to do my job, but only spoke this way since he used to say stuff like that at work and wasn't paying attention. I refused to continue cooking, and went upstairs to wash the smell of onion off me. I left him in the kitchen to handle serving dinner on his own, and he came upstairs 2 hours later after the guests left and looked an absolute mess. Hair messed up, and a shirt stained. He asked if I was happy and proud of proving a point by backing out of cooking last minute, just because he slipped and accidentally said, do your job. I told him that he's an adult and is responsible for what comes out his mouth, accidental or not. And again said I didn't have to cook for his guests and that I only volunteered to help, and he sounded like his mother with what he said. He said it wasn't true, and that he was disappointed because I didn't stick to my word and left him to fend for himself and embarrassed him in front of guests by giving them half-cooked meals over something so dumb. He walked out after changing his clothes and called me mean. He wants an apology for backing out last minute knowing he can't cook. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It's past time for him to learn to cook. Because it's not your job. He owes you an apology. Also, show him this post. Exactly, it is not her job. He should be the one apologizing, not Opie. Not the a-hole. Good for you for not putting up with your husband's crap. There is a fundamental truth in your relationship. You know how to cook, and he doesn't. That means that when it comes to cooking, you have a value. He doesn't. And as you just showed him, you are in a position of power. He needs to appreciate what you do for him, not take it for granted and bark out orders to you. I will say this, he will remember this lesson. If you had backed down at the last minute, he would have taken it as you would back down if he pushed you hard enough. Now he knows you mean business, and you will not be pushed around, and you will not be treated like a servant. A marriage is a partnership, not a corporation where one person is a boss. The correct way for him to act is to show you gratitude for the efforts you put into that night's gathering. Hello. Yes, I agree with your opinion. Also, I admit I'm the type that gets easily offended. So yeah, I might have went a bit over the top. Not Dayhole. Just because he accidentally said what he was pretty obviously thinking. Right. And then he has the nerve to be more worried about saving face in front of his buddies than mistreating his own wife. So he blames you. He is the problem here. Now for the last story. My boyfriend and I talked about salary for the first time, but he feels upset I was hiding mine. I have been dating Joey for 7 months, and I never felt like I was trying to hide how much money I make. I do engineering, and I'm making $130,000 salary. It's pretty standard for people who do what I do with my experience. My friends in the same industry make similar money. My day-to-day life isn't too flashy. I have a small apartment that I pay $700 monthly rent for. My hobbies are mostly athletics that don't require a lot of money past the initial gear cost. I ride my bicycle or rollerblades almost everywhere, for fitness, instead of driving most days. My car is 10 years old, and I really only use it for heavy errands or trips out of town. I enjoy thrift shopping and secondhand sales, because I don't think fast fashion or overconsumption is cool. When I travel, I like camping at campgrounds or staying at hostels, for the social aspect. Overall, I don't live a very flashy life, and I feel like status symbol belongings are super tacky. During my relationship with Joey, we shared our interests. I invited him to try the hobbies I live like camping and swimming, going out with friends, etc. We didn't talk a lot about money past the day-to-day stuff like picking a restaurant and having offhand comments like, let's go here. They have 250 beers and half off burger sale. This month, when Joey asked me to show him how to get set up with the budgeting software I use, I thought I'd start by showing him how I use mine, and some of its features. But when I was showing him the tool, he was really surprised to see I had $110,000 in investments, another $50,000 in savings, no debt at a high salary. He asked me why I had been hiding that, and I said I didn't think I was. He said that he felt I was, for a number of reasons. I will make choices about what to eat and drink while out based on the deals. I will stay in cheap hostels or campgrounds when traveling to save money. I've often said that something isn't in the budget for me this month, but I could see if I could budget for it in the future. Which is true. I budget ahead of time and keep myself to that, to resist the urge to throw money around on impulse. Having to work it into a budget makes me a lot more thoughtful. It felt like all of that was disingenuous. That I didn't need to act like a sandwich that was $12 was way too much. That I didn't have to book the crappiest accommodations. That I didn't have to budget and prepare for a month for unexpected expenses. I felt like I was being honest and tried to explain that to him. That I was just living life like normal and not trying to hide anything. It felt like I was keeping a big secret. Am I the a-hole for having hidden/not talked about my financial situation earlier? Not the a-hole. He hasn't even been dating you a year, and you don't live together. He has no reasonable expectation to know how much you earn, much less judge your spending habits. Good on you for being frugal. Jumping onto top comment to say, I'm pretty sure Joey isn't mad at Opie for acting frugal. To be honest, I think he just wanted to spend Opie's money. I guarantee next time they go out to eat, he's going to want Opie to pay, and he's going to get steak or something. Honestly, if you do look past this Opie and stay with him long term, I wouldn't trust him with my finances, or at least keep finances separate. Not a-hole. Not his money, not his concern.